Previously on the Wise Guy Radio Show.
Every shop I've worked in, someone has said some shit to me that rubbed me the wrong way, but it really showed me something. And man, multiple shops later, I feel like I have kind of put myself in a position now where I feel comfortable about myself because of the things I've learned from all of these different people, and putting myself in those environments are the key. And I recognized immediately that if you figured out something and you worked on that something really, really hard, that eventually, if you marketed it properly and showed it to the right people and you really put love and your heart into it, it would flourish into what you want it to be. And man, on the topic of working in the group studios, again, I remember working in a shop, and it was the Tobacco Leaf Studio, and I had a couple guys that are good friends of mine that I worked with there, and I remember them approaching me and saying, what are you doing here? What's going on? Like, where's your heart at? Like, you come in here, you're grinding, you obviously know what you're doing, you obviously take every single class with us, but we're all putting like one piece in a week and you're putting like 5 pieces in a day. Like, what are you thinking? Like, what do you want to do with this? And at the time I felt like I was kind of getting called out for not being cool or doing something the right way. But the more I thought about it, and over the past couple of years, I really recognized that you got to come at it with your all, and having that drive, not just to make the best work, but to put your all into it, all of your energy, your heart, your positivity, everything into it. And you cannot let negativity go into your work at all.
This is the Wise Guy Radio Show, a podcast dedicated to educating and inspiring through conversations with today's top talents in the world of glass. We will be dissecting their journeys in hopes to deliver actionable content that you, the artist, can start implementing now, helping you grow not only as a creative spirit, but also a successful artistic entrepreneur. With a little organization, relationship building, and your artistic ability, you can obtain greatness. Climb aboard, whether an artist, retail owner, or enthusiast. We have a ton of fun in store for you. Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show. This episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show is brought to you by Mountain Glass Arts. For the month of August 2018, Mountain Glass is offering their Boro sale. Pyrex rod and tube at 45% off. That's one hell of a deal. No code needed, on sale all August. And for all you soft glass nerds, they have their Effetre rod 35% off sale. All you need to do is use the code Effetre, that's EFFETRE at checkout. And they also have a bunch of kiln sales and all kind of other fun things going on over there at Mountain Glass. So go check them out at mountainglass.com. That's mountainglass.com. Hey, what's up? Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show, episode number 199, Pot Du. This is your host, Jason Michael. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today's episode is part 2 of our featured episode with my brother Jared, or JB, or Lerker. The first part of the episode contained a lot of content regarding his first 7 years that led up to his first show, where I described and explained at the very end, where we cut it off there, my perspective on leading up to that show. And then this part here gets into his story on the beginnings of where he began the idea and concept of creating this second kind of character persona of himself, which is actually truly who he is. A lot of us have multiple personalities per se inside of us, and it's an amazing thing to be able to find a way to get all of that out, whether it's through your art or through relationships or whatever. And Jared's been able to find a way to not only express himself creatively through his glass, but also to express himself in this whimsical kind of fun way in his glass. And the whimsical creative way is also creative like his art, but like I said in the previous episode, which I will still tell him and anybody else to this day, when you look at Jared's work, you can tell the difference between what is his passion project or the art itself, or then you can see what is his creative side and the production sense of a high-end production line. And throughout the episodes of now almost 200 episodes, I do a lot of talk and preaching about the ideas of not only creating a line of work that's your bread and butter, like Jared described, and he even said he's still making these Gandalf Sherlocks that he's been making for 7 years that I showed him when we initially got started doing this. and amongst other things, he's doing line tube, wigwag spoons, like you name it, he's still doing production. But he's also doing high-end production, and then he's also doing his art. So it really shows as a well-rounded artist, which to myself, I feel myself in that way. A lot of artists, a lot of the higher-end per se artists out there are the same way. Is to allow yourself to have a tool bag full of tools, be a well-rounded artist, not just a one-trick pony, not just someone who can make rigs or someone that can do bowls or pipes or whatever. Someone that understands this medium to a point to where you can create whatever the fuck you want to create, whether you're making pipes, making chandeliers, making dildos, making pipes again, making pendants, whatever it can be. There's so many things out there in this niche of glass that you can niche it down so far down that I see now people, and I've seen people for a while now that are doing memorial pendants and paperweights, if I can say that. Memorial pendants and paperweights. Things that I'm doing now myself. I've been doing it for a couple of years, where you can use ashes of someone's lost loved one inside glass. Oh, hitting the wrong buttons here. So I think what I find with this interview, which is fun for me from getting a perspective, not only from someone who I care about more than a lot of people in my life, being the fact that he's my brother, but also having become part of his journey, but also seeing his journey from a distance as well, and getting to share this journey with you, but also getting to experience this journey myself, because a lot of this stuff I knew about, but then at the same time, I kind of, there's some details that I wasn't really aware, especially from his perspective. I've seen the perspective of what he's been doing and growing his brand and his line, from a sense of what you would see through like someone looking at his Instagram, instead of from an intimate side of being inside of his head, like he has shared with this first episode, and this almost 5 hours of content that him and I had this conversation with, which is why we did 2 parts. That being said, I will be posting this entire episode minus some of the stuff that isn't necessary to have on the website, which will be wiseguymedia.com/199. Once this show is up, I'll be then putting everything together as one big long effing episode. And you can go on there and directly listen to this if you want to listen to the entire 5 hours straight. Help yourself there. And if you want to break it up into 2 parts, you can get it through the podcasting, however you listen to podcasts. So I hope you all really enjoyed this conversation. I know some people might take this as him coming across as being maybe arrogant, overconfident per se. Maybe not. But I will tell you that my perspective is that all I see is passion. All I see is hunger and the willing to learn and open yourself up and be creative, take criticism, try new things, dedicate specific amounts of time to specific techniques. I talk about it a lot in here, the whole 10,000 hour rule. Even the Beatles, said that they've had to practice for 10,000 hours to get to the point to where they would get off an airplane and have 5,000 females waiting for them, screaming their heads off as they got off these planes. As a glassblower, there's so many fucking techniques that we have to learn to understand this medium. The fundamental ones we have to learn are the most important ones. But the ones that are the fundamental ones and the foundational ones are like 10,000 hours per technique. Spend 10,000 hours just pulling points. I mean, literally, that's probably what I've done in the last almost 20 years. The fact that I still pull points. I was just pulling points the other day at work. People were asking me, kind of what I'm doing, and they love watching the process of glass getting heated and stretched and what have you. And then I had to kind of explain what was going on. But I pulled a nice, perfectly symmetrically centered, thickness was consistent point, because I've done it over 100,000 times, literally. So, these are the kind of things that you just gotta wash, rinse, and repeat. It's like riding the bike. You can't just get on the bike and pedal and hope that you're going to be able to ride it. You got to practice falling off that bastard and getting back on and falling off and getting back on and falling off and getting back on until eventually you can ride with no hands. How many of us out there can ride a bike with no hands? It's pretty awesome. It's not safe, but it's pretty fucking cool. So that being said, I hope you guys definitely enjoyed this episode here. And before I forget too, make sure you guys check out theflowmagazine.com. They have some pretty awesome stuff going on right now. Their next issue coming out, which is their next quarterly, is going to be their functional issue. And there is a shit ton of content in there with up-and-coming glass blowers, but also established guys that are in there that are it's going to blow your mind. And I'm super excited about it to be also not only receiving this magazine, but also to be included again in my editorials I'm doing for them, continuing the series of So You Want to Be a Glass Blower. And it's pretty cool. And so definitely an honor to being published as well, not only through this podcast, but also in a written form. It's pretty awesome. But definitely go check out the Flow Magazine, flowmagazine.com. If you have not subscribed yet and you use promo code WISEGUY, you'll save 10% off your annual subscription. You can get this in digital media form or actually in hand and paper content form as a magazine, which I prefer myself. I love having books and stuff like that in hand, even though I enjoy audiobooks as well. But I definitely prefer the book in hand per se. And also something that's been fun too is the Tournament of Fire just wrapped up session 2. They had a little bit different way of going about it this year, and I'm bringing Scott and Ryan on, the couple who actually runs Cherry Glass, but also has been putting this on now for its second year. And session 3 is going to be starting September 18th, but I'm going to be bringing them on before September 18th to discuss the first 2 sessions along with the winners. We had the first session winner on in a previous episode, and now we're going to be bringing on the second session's winner, which is DB Parker Fine Art. You can find him on Instagram. It's DB_Parker_Fine_Art. I'll have the link in the show notes. But congratulations also to Cool Hand Suze for her second place win, and also to Joe Morrison Glass for his third place win. This round of the tournament was really interesting and fascinating seeing it. A lot of trials and tribulations for these artists, being held to the point to where they have to stay and complete their pieces in a certain amount of time, a different way of going about the voting situation. And the folks over at Cherry Glass have stepped up to the plate and have seriously come across and really made this thing a really fun, highly produced thing. And we'll be letting you know and filling you guys in on the finals that I'm involved in as a host, which we're going to be doing this all together and live. And I just can't begin to tell you how excited I am. It's actually going to be semi part of my motivation for dropping about 10 pounds. I need to get off my belly so I can look decent for the cameras and stuff, as I'm going to be hosting this, visually hosting this game show. So it's pretty awesome. But that being said, with the jump roping thing, I had mentioned a couple episodes back about starting a jump rope group through the podcast. If anybody's interested in doing that, let me know. You can send me an email. I'm actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and create a link that's going to be a landing page, like a sign-up kind of thing for this. So just check the show notes. I couldn't tell you what it's going to be right now because I don't have it even created yet, but I'm just kind of thinking out loud right now. I'm making a note. Just think about it. Basically, what I want to do is kind of a 4-week challenge. The guys over at, they're calling themselves the Jump Rope Dudes. The guys that were previously Zen Dude Fitness, Dan and Brandon and Dan over there. I get the two guys' names. When I even talk to them like this, I say the same shit. It's so funny. But I'm going to talk to them about. They've talked about doing like affiliates and stuff and getting information and what have you. And they do a 4-week challenge. So I'm going to hit them up and see about getting a 4-week challenge set up for us as glassblowers. Because I know I found through my process of losing weight over the last 2 years or so, and the physicality of jumping rope really helped out with my cardiovascular. But the biggest thing I found is it kept me stretched out, and it helped me with any kind of shoulder and wrist issues that I had. By just the motion of jumping rope, helped my shoulders out. I've got a bit of bursitis on my right shoulder. I do have some tendon issues on my hands and my wrists at times. And the jump rope at first sucked, but I knew it was going to be beneficial, and it was. And it wasn't. I loved it, and that's something I miss. So that being said, look in the show notes. I will put a link in there for a landing page that you can go sign up if you want to join this fitness thing. We're going to do a little private group. I'll create a little page on the Facebook pages out there that we can all stay on board and communicate and talk about this, because it's something that's important, again, for our health. I know it's hot as shit right now, being in the middle of summer, but right now is the time to do it. And we all know that sometimes you got to work at night, sometimes you got to work early in the morning, and the jump rope might be the same way. Maybe you need to go jump rope at night, kind of thing. Oh, excuse me. Speaking of cardiovascular, I got to get some jumping rope today done. But stay tuned for that. I'll put the link in the show notes, and we'll continue to move forward and talk about it more on more episodes. Also, let's see here. Just going through my notes. Don't forget to check out Mountain Glass. All their sales. Not only do they do the monthly sales, but they also have weekly sales going on. If you haven't subscribed to their newsletter, you can just go to mountainglass.com. They have a newsletter sign-up form there, and it'll keep you in touch and up to date with all things going on there. I'm trying to be better about the social media and keeping things posted. I've been so wrapped up right now with my daughter and I's Inspired on Main Street, our theme park inspired T-shirt line we've launched, that I've kind of abandoned the other social medias that I have, and I apologize for that. I'm trying to be more active on all of them, and I just got to get a routine set up, and adding one thing more to my plate that I can just kind of tie everything in, together. Just get up in the morning. I'm not going to look at my phone right away, but eventually before I go to work, I can, set a bunch of posts up and stuff. I know there's a lot of apps out there and things that you can actually use that help you to pre-set up posts so you are consistently posting on Instagram and social medias, because as we know, these algorithms work, and if you're not consistently posting and somebody likes a picture of yours as they go through their feed and you don't post for a couple of days, they'll stop seeing your stuff. So it's important to keep posting at least daily, at least once a day, even if it's every other day, but at least more than once a week is what the point of this is. So anyways, definitely check out mountainglass.com as well as the Flow magazine and a website and stuff, and get signed up for that magazine if you have not yet done it. Also wanted to just quickly go over and talk about the Patreon page that we have. After I'm done recording this, I'm going to be uploading the first 3 videos that are going to be exclusive for all of our Patreon members, and I'm calling our Patreons our wise asses, because I feel by contributing to the show, it's a wise decision, because you're contributing to this, which is going to help me make this a better show on a financial side. It'll allow me to get better equipment. It'll allow me to travel to go to events, get firsthand experience for you guys, what's going on out there in the world of glass. But it's also going to allow me to give you content that's going to be exclusive. And right now I have 3 videos I'm putting up. They're simple videos, things that you may already know how to do. But one of them is going to be how to make a rest, like a tool rest or a glass rod rest for your bench. A real simple thing. The other one's a point pulling demonstration that I have. It's actually the first video I ever made that's going to be on there. And the second one, or the third one I should say, is going to be how to make a dragon wing in less than 5 minutes. Having made Figment now for the last couple months, and he has little small wings. It's taught me how to make a dragon wing pretty quickly in the production side of things. But it's also a fun little simple tech that you can learn that you can use in all kind of areas of glass, whether it's a dragon wing or a bird wing or an angel wing or a fin for a fish. There's all kind of stuff. But these little small techniques I'll be continuing to put up there. And just a lot of ideas that I have, especially as I go throughout my days at working at Disney, and the little things that I do. Just little minor detail things that I'm so used to doing, second nature, but they're little things that you should know how to do if you're not already doing it. So you can subscribe or become a contributor to the show for as little as $1 a month. Those that contribute the $10 or more a month, which is only $120 a year, basically what you're doing is paying $120 a year to be a member of this group, but also to have access to all these exclusive videos that will just be for the Patreon members. And right now we've got 2 of you out there helping support the show, and the more the merrier. We're going to be starting also a group chat in there as well as I become more active and get my scheduling, because my schedule at work now is pretty much settled in, so I can now work around my schedule there. And school's getting back in here soon as well, which is going to open up a lot more time to be on this microphone here or behind the computer editing my videos down. So any help for the show is definitely greatly appreciated, and I definitely sincerely do appreciate everything. And even if it's just hitting me up and saying, hey, I appreciate your show, that's more than enough of a contribution to help the show out. Like, seriously, I love all the messages I get. So as you can hear, my voice is getting tired. It's been a long week, and I got 2 more days to go at work, and then I got 2 days off, and then I'm back to my 2-day grind, and then 1 day off and 2 on, and go from there cycle-wise. So anyways, go check out the Tournament of Fire on Instagram. I'll have all the links for them as well in the show notes, as well as the winners, top 3 winners in that, and all the links for our sponsors and all that good stuff. And until next time, hope you enjoy this episode of part 2 with my brother Jared. Goes by JB or Lerker. And until next time, hope you guys take away a lot of good content from these 2 episodes. And stay tuned for episode 200. It's going to be a special episode featuring the one and only Mr. Rashawn Jones. He's coming back for episode 200. He was on our first episode ever. He was on episode 100, and now he's back for episode 200, and that's how it's going to roll. He will be coming on, hopefully, until even if we have like 10,000 episodes. Every 100th episode, you'll be hearing his ass on there. I don't know about his ass, but you'll be hearing him on there, and him and I will get together and be a couple grumpy old guys on the front porch telling you young bucks to pull points. So stay tuned for that. Can't wait. Episode 100 coming up soon. But until then, have a great day. Love you all. Take care. Peace.
Oh man, it's so hard to even create work sometimes, like the Lerker stuff when I'm bummed or like going through shit. Like that work is so playful for me to come in and make it and be in a bad mood or like have some shit going on in my life. It really takes it out of me. Like I can't even explain it to people. Like people talk about having like this attachment to their work, and it's such a simple character, but like shit gets lost in the mail. I'm not like, oh my God, this package is lost in the mail. Now I have to remake this shit. I'm like sincerely like thinking about my little baby lost in the mail. It's crazy.
Oh no, I completely understand 100%. Like when I make a custom owl, like my Wise Guy line, when it's like specifically made with all my energy into it for somebody specifically who asks a specific thing, or even something I came out with my heart and they wanted to buy it, and it's like not up and nobody knows where the fuck it is. It's heartbreaking.
That's what the Lerker did for me though. Is I feel like it really it gave me something to man, this whole time I was like, that's what I mean, like focused and like sucking in information, let myself get a little loose just to gather more information, let myself get a little loose just to gather more information, and like constantly trying to not necessarily break the life code, but like the glass code, you know? And then it was like, man, I remember, I'm sure you remember this shit, but playing video games back in the day, we used to sit there and play video games, and you'd play that shit all the way fucking through, and I'd show up and I'd be like, yo, I got the cheat codes, dog. I don't know if you remember.
Oh yeah,
I'm like, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 specifically. Yep. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. I remember this shit.
Yeah, dude. I'm like, fuck that. I'm still pulling points.
Yeah, but you're still playing the game all the way through. You know what I mean? And I'm sitting there like trying to like devour the information little by little and get behind the I want to get behind the system. Mm-hmm. And man, that the Lerker show. I'll kind of back up on that a little bit. I took that coil chaw class. Sitting in the coil chaw class, I'm thinking to myself, what the hell am I doing here? We were talking about this a few minutes ago. What the hell am I doing here? What the hell am I doing here? This is now the second coil class I'm taking. What am I going to receive from this class that I did not receive before? Because as of right now, what I'm seeing go down on the torch, I'm really focusing on chaw. Like, what is coil about to show me that is really going to blow my mind? And it was what he was doing off the torch. It was him, being chill as hell, making weird monkey drawings, and playing off of his character model to implement his positivity and creativeness. And that's what made it a brand. It wasn't that he was like, I'm going to start a brand. It was that he had a playful enough character that he could now play with and kind of implement into his body of work constantly over and over again in different poses, different positions. I grew up in Glass watching a lot of YouTube videos, not for educational background, but for like put yourself in check. This is how hard you should be working background. Specifically, those Goose Fire Gallery videos. There's a Joe Peters one and the Coil one, and those two in particular pushed my ass to work harder than I ever could up until the point of having this idea to now work even harder and produce a second line of work. And I think it was Joe's Goose Fire show that really did it for me. If you watch that video, it's probably a 15 or 20 minute video, but it spans about 10 to 12 different bodies of work produced all by him under his name. You walk around and you're looking at the honeywork, you're looking at the aliens, you're looking at he had a carousel with a bunch of different like dragons on it, it looked like, or different animals on it. He had like there was like a train that was all these like weird freaks. It was like a freak train, like a circus train or something like that. And then you got over, there was a part where he had the sea life, and there was a part where he had the robots. And it was so obvious to me after 6 years sitting at this coil class, sitting at the Chaw class, watching Chaw make his work. Everyone's over Chaw. Everyone's sitting over Chaw's shoulder, trying to eat the information. You know what I mean? It's literally like a pack of dogs on an animal just pulling into how to hollow sculpt with a blowhose hooked in, and like come in there with like a paddle or a knife and sculpt as you're blowing, so it kind of like pushes against itself. And people are like reeling in the juice off that. And I'm sitting here watching old boy fucking lay a monkey down on the wall with paint marker. Like, holy shit, I'm fucking sleeping the whole goddamn time. It's right here in front of me, dude. Start drawing something. Start drawing something that means something to you, that means you. Draw you. And it wasn't that I came home and drew me, but I came home kind of implemented and man, this just happened for me like 2 weekends ago that I figured this shit out. It was actually last weekend that I figured this shit out. Not this past weekend, but the weekend prior. As you're drawing, you can't draw everything. It's very obvious. In fact, unless you are actually a talented drawer or artist or painter or anything that has to do with hand skills, unless you actually have some skills at that shit, you probably suck. And in fact, I'm horrible at drawing. But what I can tell you is that I recognized then. Well, I recognize now, but then I was just like trying to hit fucking once again, throwing the darts at the board, trying to hit the bullseye. I just drew simple lines that kind of complemented what was going on in my head, and those simple lines kind of played into what I now call the sketch series. But it was a very simple sketch of like a kind of like a bunny rabbit, or like gosh, I don't even know what to call it. It looks like it doesn't have the, you know, in the sketch of what I drew, it did not have such a Japanese toy-like look. It very much had like there used to be these bunny rabbit stickers that you'd get at like Spencer's that were like, it was like a bunny and it had like a saying underneath it, like "eat shit" or something like that. Do you remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
It looked like that. It looked like that shit. Like it was that kind of a weird drawing. And but I recognized that Coyle's drawing implemented things that he could then do in glass. So it was like, you know, like I looked at my drawing, I'm like, okay, can this be done in glass? Can I kind of like sculpt that? Can I play that into what I'm doing? And this was overnight, like no joke. Like Coyle Chaw class, 2 days. Night 1, come home. Holy shit, I got to draw more. Night 1, I draw. Day 2, I wake up, I go to the class. I'm sitting there drawing the same little thing, the Lerker, and I look up. Coyle's like, "All right, we're gonna make a lucky cat," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool, lucky cat." Like it's this little waving cat that people have them. People collect them. People have them. I have a few on my bench. Coyle has them. Cute. But the ones that we have on our benches, they go off solar power. So it's, I mean, just in general, the more you work, the faster this is supposed to go. So it keeps you going. It's kind of an interesting thing. But anyways, he makes the lucky cat. A quarter of a way into that lucky cat, I'm like, what am I looking at here? Oh my gosh, it looks just like what I've been drawing all night. Oh, there it is. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't that anymore. And it went back into what he was doing. And I was like, oh, okay. I have to go to my bench right now. And I just remember literally just like getting up in the middle of class. And those past few classes right before that, I had been doing that. And I'm telling myself, I'm like, why am I taking these classes? Like, why am I spending the money to take these classes from artists that I've already taken classes from? And it's not that I'm not learning anything. It's that I don't really want to accept the information I'm hearing. Like, it's not that I don't want to accept it as right or wrong, but I'm trying to get something out of this, but what is it? I don't know what it is. And when I saw that Lerker, like, oh man, the Lerker was like there in that lucky cat. It was like, oh man, I got to go to my bench. And it was the Lerker was in the lucky cat upside down. Like the bottom of the lucky cat became what the top of the Lerker was in my mind, visually looking at him naked. It was nowhere close to the same thing. And
right. I know what you're saying. I understand.
But anyways, though, I went back to my bench and wadded up some Portland Gray. I still have this little thing. It's got like broken arms and shit because it fell all over my bench. But wadded up some Portland Gray, and I made this first little lurker, and it's just like a full body little solid pendant. And I remember the guys that were in my studio at the time that had been giving me shit for doing what I had been doing the way I had been doing it and not putting my all into it, came in to just take a break because it was our shop. We were allowed to go back into our studio space mid class. And at the end of the day, no joke, the people renting at that studio were the people taking the classes. Like, it was very, very tight crew for about 3.5 years. And so they come back into the studio and they're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know? And I show him this little character. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about it. And the one dude who always, like, I love all those dudes, but the one dude who always, like, I was always like looking for the approval from, you know, he was like, oh, I like that. It looks like a little like Japanese toy or something. And I was like, oh man, it does, doesn't it? And then it was like, okay, now we're like, how can I compliment this on the Japanese toy thing? So it was like I had to step back from that. Like, all I had done in that little first Lurker sculpture was create the sketch Lurker. I didn't actually like manifest it into a glass. Like, I did not compliment the character with the techniques that I knew I could compliment it with. Like, I knew my toolbox of glass skills had some shit that I could go in there and pull out. Like, I had to dig through it, but I could pull some shit out that would really compliment this character more than just these two little thin lines and two little black dots for eyes. So that's kind of how it advanced. I knew I had an iMilli. I had some already made. Went and found a piece of iMilli that I had made like 2 or 3 years prior in the coil class, like the first coil class I took.
Right.
Saw that,
Yeah,
same second day of the second coil class. And I just implemented it into the work. I'm doing this thing. I'm doing the things. And then all of a sudden, I remember the very first Lurker I made. It was like this is what happened. Let's reel this back. Coil, I take that coil class. I make that one Lurker. All of a sudden, the next day, I don't make it again. 4 months goes by, 5 months goes by, 6 months goes by, and I don't make it. But that day, for some reason, I remember I was like, this is it. This is my shit. I'm doing this thing. I'm going to do this now. This is me. This is who I am. And I went and I made an Instagram page, and it was called, at the time, I think it was called Lerker. And it gave me an outlet to possibly one day take off on an idea. I had these random ideas. I was like, what if oh man, it was such a silly one. I was like, what if you like made a page of like a collector, but it was really you and using your pieces, and you went by like, or no, I was like, what if you made a page that was like another artist, and you went by Rain Main Glass. And I was like, what if you just made like carb caps and shit? Rain Main, like RAYNE MAYNE, like just gangster as fuck name, and but make like carb caps or something. And that idea, I was like, wait a minute, I got this little thing now. I'm gonna make this other page, call it Lurker, and maybe it'll give me an outlet for something one day. I just kind of put it out there, dude. I hate to say it, but this I've never done this. People claim domain names all the time for websites and shit, and don't even put a website up. Like,
oh yeah, I've done it.
like,
I have like six domain names.
Yeah,
just,
and it's
just
like,
in case.
I felt like I was doing that with Instagram. At some point, I remember making an Instagram called Directional Caps, because I was like, holy shit, directional caps. Whoever gets that name, number one, is probably gonna sell a directional carb cap for the rest of their life. You know what I mean? Like, that's it was just called Directional Caps, and I dropped that name. But what I'm saying is the Lurker thing in particular, I realized I had a product. One day I could fall back on this if I wanted to. Really, for that next 3 or 4 months, I didn't make any of the Lurker stuff. And every once in a while, I would like do a little drawing of that character to kind of remind myself of what I possibly had. But I would never go back and make it. But I would start uploading those drawings to the Lurker Instagram, not really realizing that I was actually creating an Instagram that made it look as though, what was going on, an artist is painting this character. And now all of a sudden people were commenting on the painting and were like, oh, cute, you know, or like, oh, that's awesome. And it could have been bots, it could have been whatever, but I realized that whatever it was it was getting recognition somehow. Like somehow that was getting linked to a page where someone was able to see it and come back and comment it. And I realized if I just kept putting a little bit out there at a time, just like the JB page that I had built up for the past 6 or 7 years on technique, this character alone would build up some weight of its own. And so anyways, I took that coil class. I think that coil class was in like August, maybe September, and maybe even July. Like it was in the summertime. And moved to Colorado in November. So, 3 or 4 months go by. I pack all my shit up in Tallahassee. I pack the entire house up into a Penske truck, drive the Penske truck across the country to Colorado, to a studio I've never been in before. I'm not making lurkers at this point. Literally, all I'm making is floating recyclers, single uptake floating recyclers. I'm not even doing really Millie work at this point. This was like right before the Millie pattern work popped off for me, and this is before I even did any of the lurker stuff. I came out of that Florida move, landed here in Fort Collins, Colorado, moved into a shop with guys who I had met once like 4 years ago who were absolutely nuts, took complete advantage of me and my girlfriend Rachel, who also blew glass. Long story short, they had a bad rap already in the town, and by the time we landed where we're at now, all of the people that we had met along the way knew who they were and knew that they were an issue, and we just really didn't have any friends to tell us before we got there. So a lot of my time early on in Colorado was putting myself in a position where I thought I was comfortable. This is like from November till probably April of 2016 to 2017, was getting comfortable and trying to find space. I was renting in that rough spot with rough studio, rough guys. At the same time, I had a part-time job working out in Evergreen for Matt Robertson, doing prep and production work for him. And I was working my own shifts as well, so it's just, once again, two a days. And I would go work for him, come home, work a night shift for myself, go work for him, come home, work a night shift for myself. It's 2.5 hour drive there, 2.5 hour drive back. It's the same type of thing as you're doing for Disney.
Yeah.
And
or was, not anymore.
Yeah. And but I was also coming back and doing all that Millie work and the lurker thing at the same time. And that being said, landed in a spot that we're now in. It's called Timberline Studios. Luckily, I had a buddy. He goes by Slob Glass. Super cool dude. Robbie is the coolest dude ever. He worked over at Joel Halen's spot, which is actually just adjacent to the space that we were working when we first got here. And when we went over there, they immediately were like, "Those guys are nuts. I can't believe you even showed up there." And we
Amazing.
we were like, I wish someone had told us, But they Joel Halen's crew and Robbie really helped us get into where we're at now. There's a group of guys that work over here in Fort Collins. The studio is called Timberline Studios. They're actually moving right now. We're in the process in the next few months here of moving up to. They got a new building built, brand new shop. It's just about 20 or 30 minutes north of where we're at. But anyways, we'll get to that down the road. I moved into this shop. At the time, I'm making single uptake recyclers. I remember I moved here, like in the first month of me moving here, I decided it was a good idea to do a meet and greet at a shop back in Florida. So I moved here. I'm here for a month. I get back on a plane. I fly back to Florida. I do this meet and greet. I fly back here. The meet and greet I had Sherlock's mini tubes floating recyclers. And it was like, dude, I'm done with this. This has been almost a year or two now of the same body of work. I'm like, the only thing I'm doing different is coming out with different colors. Like I'm over this shit. And at the end of the day, now everyone's making the same floating recycler with the same single uptake. You know what I mean? Like I am over this shit. And I remember that very first one I made was in the Mike Rahman class. And the only dude I had even seen after trying one was Steve Seisler at the time. Now it's like everyone's doing that piece. Like that's just another pipe,
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So that's where it hit me. I realized, holy shit, that's what it is. These are just models. What you're putting into the model is your art. That's your creativity.
Yeah, I've always considered it to be a canvas.
Yeah, it's a canvas. It's canvas. So, and beyond that, beyond the sandblasting, beyond all the other shit you do, the Millie shit, that's when it hit me. I was like, all right, okay, I'm back from Florida. I'm in Colorado. We're here. We've landed. Where do I go from now? What do I have in my toolbox that's real fresh that I really want to take off on that might spark some juice for me here in Colorado to start with? And at the time, it was not the lurker. It was the Millie work, because I had not really I took that Kaibat class. I knew about the tubing. I played with the tubing a little bit. I came back after the class, was really bummed because I felt as though I had worked really hard trying to figure that technique out. And through being blocked by a couple different artists who I really looked up to on social media for doing that technique, it really took me back on wanting to even implement it into my work. It made me feel uncomfortable about what I was doing, even though I knew what I was doing was because I loved to do what I was doing. It wasn't because I was trying to impress anybody. So it was like I was constantly on this torn edge of being a young, immature adult and being whoever I want to be, you know? And I feel like, that being said, I came to Colorado, did that show. I did that small little show in Florida, that little meet and greet. And I started off on the Lerker and the Millie work right then and there when I got back. The Lerker was very slow to start with. This is now, God, what year is this? This is like
2017 probably.
Yeah, this is like I'm trying to think what month of 2007. Yeah, this is probably like February or March. I did this meet and greet in January of 2017, and like late December 2017 or 2016, early 2017. I'm sitting here working around doing the Millie work. I'm making all these mini tubes. I'm having a good time. You know, I'll make a tube. I'll come home. I'll look at it for hours. Put it away. No one's buying it. Someone buys it. I'm pumped. I pay my rent. I just spent 3 weeks like making another Millie, turning it into tubing. It's taking me like 2-3 weeks to make these like sections of Millie tube.
Yeah,
and I'm like spending all this time, and it's great, dude. Like I feel good. I'm like put myself mentally on a level where I was like getting off on what I was doing. It was like masturbatory at that point. Like I was enjoying making the Millie tubing, and I didn't care if it sold. And it was like, holy shit, now my bills aren't getting paid. Am I a starving artist? No, I'm a dumb artist. You know what I mean? I'm ignorant. I need to fall back in my two-a-days, grind Millie as hard as I possibly can, and get some production work out there, and get some work out there. And it was like, and then it was like work. I worked for Matt. So I'm doing Matt's work, doing his frit prep. I'm like rolling tube and frit all day, making bodies for him for his drafts. And I'm making these mini tubes for him. And then I'm coming home and I'm trying to like, dude, it was crazy. Like the pay was what it was. I accepted the job for what I accepted it for, but I was not surviving out here. And the cost of living out here is insane. You have to bust your ass, or you got to know someone to get by out here. And that being said, I immediately recognized that the work I was doing for someone else was not necessarily under par for where I was at a technical level, but I could easily do the work that I was doing for someone else for myself and make it that much better for myself because I'm putting myself into it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was when I noticed that the characters were him that I realized that holy shit, this whole time I've had me. It's been the Lerker. That's what I figured out last year. I just didn't do anything with it. Like when he was like, dude, the drafts are me. I was like he said that one day we were working there. I was like, dude, that draft looks like that it's on your exercise bike. And he's like, dude, it is my exercise bike. And I was like, oh. And he's like, dude, the draft is me. Like, don't you get it? Like, that's kind of what he played into it. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, it's a total light bulb moment.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, dude. Well, I guess I'm out of here. Thanks for the idea. You know, like not the idea, but like the mental awareness to say,
totally,
dude, it's me. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, dude, it's me. Like, the Lerker is not me in a portrayal sense, but I have created something that speaks to me on a level that I can play with freely and I feel comfortable with. I don't feel comfortable with a draft. I tried to make a draft. I remember taking a Matt Robertson class in like 2013 and trying to make a draft. I made this draft and it looked close to the draft, dude. Like it was comparable to his draft, but it was because I had just taken the class. I came home, I implemented the skill sets to feel it. I needed to feel what it felt like to make that draft so that I could then move on and make what I wanted to make. And that first Lerker, I really realized that I was making what I wanted to make. I came back. I stopped working for Matt. This is still early 2017. And through basically springtime of 2017 all the way until the middle of summer, I pretty much did Millie work and I did the Lerkers. And I kept it completely separate. I would go online both days
And I would do those 2-a-days. I would do the 2-a-days, but instead of production, it was now production, high end, and then Millie, don't care. I'm just going to sit here for the next 15 hours after I just sat here for a 10-hour shift and make this Millie happen. And days would go by. I wouldn't come home. I would sit here. I'd be cold working, or I would, I remember laying Millies out and having like 4 or 5 builds to go into tubing before I would even build it. And I was like getting the Millie in a production sense. Like it was feeling really good, but no one was really purchasing it and the pipes that I was putting it into. So I realized then and there, like, the vessels that I'm creating this pattern for, they're not doing it. Like the pattern is, if I could just fucking cut off the blow tube and sell this little cylinder of pattern of hollow tubing to someone, I bet they would buy that. Of course, not a lot of people are going to buy that shit. And right. And at the end of the day, I'm still sitting on Millie work that, man, I cherish, and I look at it and I maybe someone will buy it. I'm not looking to sell it, to be honest with you. At this point, I really enjoy having the work that I put my all into for, God, a year straight, and maybe 3-4 years straight of Millie and trying to figure it out, to the point that it's just in a basic mini tube and someone doesn't appreciate the pattern. Like they see it and they're like, oh, it's a mini tube, or they see it and they're like, oh, this has this on it. But it's like, dude, the pattern is what you're buying. That's what you're buying into. The people that buy my Millie work and have supported me on my Millie work buy it because of that. They know what they're looking at. They know what they're buying into. They're into the trippy shit just as much as I am. And it's like that's man, if at the end of the day your audience and your collector's market is people that care about you and your work and what you're doing, then you don't got really any problems. It sounds like you're doing pretty good.
No, man, that's where the whole 1,000 true fans concept comes in. I mean, you can have 20,000 Instagram followers, but if you have 1,000 people that are fucking fanatical about your work, and they're all spending $100 at a time every year, just one of them spends $100 a year, or I'm saying like 1,000 of them, everybody spends $100. It's $100,000 a year.
So with the Millie work, it was like I had 15,000 followers, and I had like 3 people really pumped on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it was like, don't get me wrong, people were pumped on it, but I had about 3 people who were like buying into it and supporting the hell out of me because they knew what they were looking at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you also had to sell it for a certain amount of money to make it.
Even trying to give stuff away to survive. Like there's a point where you're like at the end of the night where you're like, okay, dude, we haven't sold shit all day in the booth. Like we're dropping the prices. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
been there, done that.
So yeah, it's not that I did that. But before I did that, I said, "Fuck this shit. I have my heart in this. I'm keeping it for myself. This is now mine." And it's hard to own your work. When you own some shit that's real, you own it for a reason. You're not like I own some of my very first pipes, and I look at them. I'm like, dude, this is awesome that I own this because it looks wank as hell and it reminds me of where I was and shit. And
yeah. Absolutely.
I think about my most recent shit. As I look at it, I'm like, damn, this is awesome. This is where I'm at right now. I want to keep this. Not everything, just those. That Millie work really did it for me. That was like complementary to, not necessarily a point in time where I was at in my glass, but specifically to a time period that I spent exploring the medium and taking it so far to a climactic point where I can now say, all right, this is it. I've gone all the way out. Now I'm reeling it back in, and once again, that's the Dali concept. There is like going as crispy as you can so that when you hit it off and get buck wild and shit, people are like not like, what the hell is this dude on? People are like, wow, how long have you been doing this?
Or they want to be like, I want to be what he's doing.
Yeah. So it's like, the Millie work for me was only complementing where I wanted to be in glass on a skill set level in the way of like working with glass. At the end of the day, if you can shape a pipe really good, that's awesome. You have great hand skills, or you got a lathe, or you know what you're looking for in the way of proportions. Like you have worked that model down to what it is. But at the end of the day, you still might not know how to pull points. Once again, it's being well-rounded. You know what I mean? So like in the sense of my well-roundedness, I felt like Millie was really the climactic, well-rounded point of my career. So why not keep all the work that didn't sell at that point when really people's been supporting you this whole time on stuff that you've been putting your heart into, but you really, this is it, dude. Like this is the shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. And nobody really sees it. recognizes it or knows the work involved. And that's really what I felt like it came down to with the Millie, is that people see the drawing, people see these guys do these drawings or like the little dot flower mandala patterns, and they see the millions of dots. They see the hours that go into these drawings, or they see these pieces get made with these flips, and the flips look just like Ren and Stimpy or something. You know what I mean? Like what they don't understand is that Millie itself, dude, like everything, the way Millie has worked, the pull itself, the build itself of the Millie, there's so much time that goes into the Millie that it's like, if people understood just that alone, they would probably have a better appreciation for the tubing.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. But like my understanding of Millie is the main reason why I don't do Millie.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. That too.
And I have an uttermost. I mean, just to prove what you're doing, dude. I appreciate everything you're doing because I know what goes into it. But like you're saying, I think because the common layman out there doesn't understand. They can see an opal, understands a precious stone. It's encased in glass. Dichroic glass is different. There's a lot of things involved in certain things that people can grasp. But for me, even as an artist has been behind the torch for 20 years, I'm still trying to grasp some of these techniques and Millie work that's being done. Yeah. I understand like stringer stack text and different things like that, but it's like,
well, and that's what I'm saying. You understand it, but at the end of the day, when you go to try it, it's like you're a virgin to glass in general. It's like, that's how I still feel with Millie in general to this day. And I'm someone who has made some halfway decent tubing sections out of Millie that look scribbly, scrabbly Millie. Like you, there's a refinement to every process of all of this. And that's what I'm saying is like, I'm still trying to figure out how to build Millie, but I got that tubing build down,
Yeah, exactly. Fuck yeah, dude.
Anyways, though, so that being said, I was really calling it early on. I was calling the Lerker work my production work, and at the time, and I was just doing it because I knew I had something, and I knew that it would give me the ability to make the Millie work. Like if I could sell this character that I already recognized was a sellable character, and I could promote it as a different artist, then JB over here could be doing the Millie stuff and like highlighting himself continuously. And then that aspect hit me again where I was like, you know what? I'm just a student of glass. That's all I'm doing. The Millie work is just another expression of where I'm at in glass. It is not claiming anything. What is claiming something is my production line, my Lerker. What I'm making every single day alongside the Millie work is really what's claiming me. Once again, Matt, I had to listen to Matt say it again in my head. I am the draft, like be what you make, be who you are, be what's going on. So I built that Lerker, and the first few ones were really stiff looking, and once again, refinement. As I've built them more and more, they've gotten a little looser. They have a little more personality. Some of them are angry, some of them are a little goofy and like dumb looking, and but they all are based on very simple techniques in the way of like sculpted like arms and feet, and as the character is advancing, the techniques are advancing. So I've done some recently with toes, not because I didn't know how to do toes before, but because the character wasn't ready to have toes.
Mm-hmm.
So
I totally understand it.
I'm like slowly like I didn't want to come out with that Lerker. Like, okay, so at this point I'm like on the Lerker page. I'm like looking at the Instagram. I'm like, all right, I got a couple of these weird stiff animals up. I got some drawings, like what does this look like to people? And what I could grasp was this looks like this guy's been a painter for 6 months or a year painting his artwork. And all of a sudden he picked up a torch and now he's a glass blower. And now he's like making his character out of glass. Like that's what I saw. I did not see, I've been blowing glass for 6 years, 7 years. And all of a sudden I made this character and now that's what I'm going to do. I saw someone came out of nowhere. Their homie was like, yo, dude, hop on the torch. Here's a stick of color and some 6mm. And dude just like crushed out a little pindy. And now his homie's like, yo, here's some 32mm like chunk of crucible tubing. Go ahead and try to make that hollow. And all of a sudden, dude just like Magic Johnson fingers had that shit going. You know what I mean? But it couldn't be too quick. It couldn't be too quick. You know what I mean? Like the advancement had to be slow. So that stiff character slowly has evolved and become a little looser of a character. instructor, and all of a sudden he's standing. So there's a standing version, the guy has figured out how to make a standing version of it. Well, I knew how to make a standing version of it. I took a coil class in 2013. I saw the bear get squished. I know what's going on. You know what I mean? It was in my toolbox the whole time. I just never had anything to put it in that really said, this is me. This is what's going on. So I was never making work with honest, heartfelt intention and pulling from my toolbox. I was only coming home from these classes and trying to keep my toolbox fresh, like shining the tools, I'm like getting in there with fucking WD-40 and a rag and like wiping them off and shit. And now I'm finally using them. So I'm like getting into this Lerker. I'm like building it out. Stuff's happening. Body shape's changing. Meanwhile, the guys in the shop here run a tubing company where they pull vac stacked tubing. And they, at the time when I met them, they were pulling like wigwaggable tubing, and they had a couple options in the way of like solid colors and transparent colors, but nothing that was really like I wasn't like, oh, I need to get a hold of that one. Like they had a purple,
I wasn't talking to you.
They had a purple lollipop that I was like, damn, I need that. And I remember asking them and them being like, that color's kind of airy, it's kind of hard to work with. And they had a blue stardust, and I was like, I need that blue stardust. And but I remember them asking me, they obviously recognized that I was aware enough of my own work to be aware of what people wanted. And I remember them asking like, hey, what other colors do you think we could do? And I remember saying Mediterranean. And I remember them saying, yeah, we've thought about that. We've seen that color. That color looks great. And next thing you know, they had the color in, and they were pulling some tubing of that. That Mediterranean color at that time was very hard to work. The rod that we were getting was extremely hard to work. The tubing we were getting was extremely hard to work. And I had just taken a Yushin Calm class, and Yushin had mentioned how he was using it, and I could have only advised the guys to then use it the same way. So they pulled that Mediterranean tubing, and I remember being like, damn, this is the shit. I'm going to buy this from you. I'm going to buy a bunch of this from you. And then it was like, yo, I also collect color. Like I told them that. And man, I like hundreds of pounds of color.
I know, it's ridiculous. I've mentioned it before without saying your name.
Yeah.
Like who bought all the serum?
I've heard you talk about my serum.
Yeah.
At the time, I had a big hoard of lemon drop. Was really limited at the time, and I had like 11 pounds of lemon drop, and I brought it all in. I was like, pull all the shit, just pull it all, pull in the tubing, give it all. God. Back. So they were really cool, man. At the time we were doing the cut that we were doing was they would pull what they could get off of it, and they would give me my poundage back that I donated to it.
Okay, so, nice.
So it worked out for me to do what I was doing. Like I got out of it what I wanted to get out of it. And at the end of the day, those first Lerkers completely, even though I knew color prep and I knew coil potting and I knew all these different implemented techniques, I knew specifically if I was going to use that Mediterranean at that time in that my body of work, I needed to use it this way. Let's go ahead and give it a try. I used that backstack Mediterranean tubing and made this. Dude, the Mediterranean Lerker is like one of my favorite ones to make, and people go back and forth. They're like sometimes I get people that are bummed that I've made one in the same color as another one, and sometimes I get people that are like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that you made another one. I can add it to my collection. Like I have a couple in New York that literally all they own from me is Mediterranean Lerkers, And then I have other people who hit me up in DMs that are like, yo, I'm really bummed. I spent a lot of money on this piece and it looks like you've duplicated it. And at the end of the day, if you purchase a one-off unique piece, you know what you're purchasing. If you purchase a branded body of work that is only complementing a specific colorway and it just happens to be in the series of that artist's work for that year, you're buying into that piece for that year from that artist. Like I own a Calm Bird that's crippy. It's like Haterade or Crippy Green. And it's numbered on the bottom, number 12, Calm, 2012 or 2013 or whatever it is, 2014 or something. It's like, it's number 16, 2016. And I was so pumped on that. Guess what? He puts out that same color bird the next year. He put out that same color bird 6 months later from then. People elbow. How many jade green elbow dynos have I seen that are brontosauruses with a 14 millimeter male joint? When you are building a branded body of work, the best thing that you can do is not necessarily reproduce the same work, but complement something that is a successful model by changing it up slightly enough to where the collector is paying attention and recognizing, wow, it's so close, but he's just changed it this slightly. I need that one. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of collectors that are buying into the Lerkers, specifically the same colorways. And it's because they like that slight variance on the 5 other ones that they have. And then they buy the pendant, but they don't just buy the one, because the Mediterranean pendants is a hot pendant. I've made a few different Mediterranean pendants. I have collectors that buy Mediterranean pendants from me. It's really interesting. That Mediterranean is by far one of my favorite colors out of the tubing from the guys here at the shop. And I just bought 2 pounds of it today. I use it all the time. I'm working a piece right now with it. I have a Voodoo Mediterranean Lurker in the kiln right now. And
hell yeah, I have to check it out. That color, I know I've seen it.
It's a beautiful color. Very extremely difficult to work. People that know how to gather up and blow out color can experiment with that color in that way. But that color is extremely difficult to work by itself. You can get it in crucible tubing. It's extremely to work by itself like that. The prep method of doing these large scale tube builds in a vacuum form where the color is easily trapped under clear and manipulated without being exhausted to the flame at all, really helps capture the beauty of these colors that are very hard to work. And that's what I noticed about that Mediterranean, is that they were able to capture the beauty of that color without even touching the surface of it. And it does a whole shitload of other things. The way the rods spin up, I don't know if it's off a COE or something, but the way the rods spin up, they kind of hold their lines, so you get like this full reticello effect throughout the piece. And those are things that, you know, guys that are gung-ho, down to the bone about, so like, I prep all my color, I do my color. They're not going to be pumped to hear that there's a good way to do it, that someone else has prepped it and it's you know, in a vac stack form. Nobody's going to be pumped to hear that. A lot of people that produce color themselves don't like to hear that. But a lot of people haven't tried the shit. That Mediterranean is by far some of the most beautiful color that I think I have used in that form of prep. And it's just another way to complement not only color prep, but pattern in glass. Like the pattern that color traps when it's spun up and used in their tubing specifically, or just made in that process, it is extremely out of this world. Like it's different than anything else. But
yeah, it's
anyways,
neat. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
That meta Lurker changed it all for me. There was things that happened with that color being as stiff as it was that I was able to do to that first meta Lurker that I made that I was not able to do to previous ones. Like I felt more comfortable shaping the glass specific ways because of how stiff the material was, and I was getting it cooking hot, but it would harden up a little differently, or it would like carve a little differently with a knife. Like there were specific things I was doing that I was like, wow, this is the one. This is like a test color. Like I can build future projects not only with a beautiful color, but with something that's really workable, you know?
Yeah, make it like your sketch color.
Yeah, it was like the color to go into on a new idea, and a really sellable one, you know? Like it wasn't a bad color. And anyways, so I do this Lerker and the Millie work for 6 months and maybe 4 or 5 months. And I have this idea. I've carried it on. I'm doing the Millie work. I'm grinding my ass off. No one's really buying it. So I obviously need to represent this in a different light. And I'm thinking about the Lerker stuff. I'm like, dude, I'm doing this and people are into it. I need to represent this in a light. And I'm like, all right, I got an idea. I got some buddies. They own a shop in Florida. They own a studio in Florida, Zen Glass. Worked there for off and on past 5-6 years. And, like everything, I've been to music festivals with them. We've done everything together to the point that I knew I was in a good space to go into, asking them for this idea. And Josh was gung ho about the idea too. So, anyways, that being said, I give him a call one day and I say, Josh, I want to do this. I want to do this meet and greet, kind of like I've been doing for the past year or so. And I'm an observer. I observe people. You know, those classes, day 1 and 2, those are the classes. Day 3 is the artists out on the floor selling themselves, or you know, they're doing a meet and greet. And I picked up on that early on in the classes, that if I was going to do anything and I was going to start putting myself out there, I was going to need to do these meet and greets. Like, people were going to have to meet me and kind of shake my hand to really be supportive of my artistic endeavors. So those meet and greets I had been doing for a year were all based on what I call, most people call day 3, FREE, but I call it day 3. It's just day 3. And it's not really considered day 3. It's just the gallery show. But hell, dude, if you're going to learn anything on how to be a more successful artist, show up to the gallery show. Show up to where the artist is representing themselves. Show up to where the guy that's sitting in the studio grinding in a ripped up t-shirt and khakis all day is actually like dressed nice and appropriate and wearing a pendy and, like, you know, doing his business the way he should be doing it, or she should be doing it. And you'll get a good idea of how to run your shit the right way, or the opposite, how to not run your shit, which is completely, like, the coolest thing you can have happen is, like, walk up on a gallery show and be like, dude, this guy has no idea what he's doing. He hasn't sold shit. I've been showing up for the past 6 shows. The past 6 artists have sold out every single show. This dude hasn't sold one thing. What's going on here? Obviously, this guy has no idea what he's doing, you know?
Yep.
So that being said, I'm talking to Josh. I'm saying, yo, I want to do this gallery show. I want to do a meet and greet. I want to move forward with this. I think the idea here is not to just do a JB or a Lerker show, but to do both combined and offer it in a class setting. This is where we're catching up where you and I left off. God, it's been like 30 or 45 minutes now. But this is the Zen Gallery show. This is August. I believe it was like August 21st, 22nd. And then the gallery show may have been the 23rd or 24th. I think it was actually, I'm pretty sure it was like, it was a whole day. I'm trying to remember exactly how this went down because there was so much shit going on at this event. I more or less stuck my neck out on the line and said, I'm willing to come in, teach a workshop. Here's the big difference in my mind. A class is something where someone comes in and actually demonstrates something for you that they have come up with themselves, and over a time period, you are seeing the artist unfold their theories on life and their work and their body of work and how to implement it into your work. Where a workshop to me is like, you know, this is like, I'm saying a class is like a week long, maybe like those Pilchuck events. You're like growing up. You're like learning how to become a person and a human being in those settings. These workshops are like real quick, like 1-2 day. You come in, you hang out for, you know, 10 to 12 hours. You see the artist throw down on a couple things he's known for. You get to ask questions. And that's kind of what I opened up the door for. It turned into being an entire first day of nothing but my work as JB, where I have been mentally for 5-6 years. And then that second day, everyone showed up and now this is what's funny is the first day, there's 10 spots in the class. 10 people sign up. They think their 2 artists are going to be there. 8 of the people took all both days. 2 of the people took just the second day. And one of the kids that took the second day had been someone who'd been taking classes with me for a long time. And he just even told me, he's like, dude, I didn't think I needed to take the first day. Like, it was you. I figured I just learned the shit from you. And then he showed up the second day, and I was there the second day, just me. And people were into it. There was an older gentleman in the class who had absolutely no idea what was going on. There was a lot of people in that class that rented at that studio space who I felt like, if anything, at the end of the day, I was coming into that space to help them. That I recognized that those people who I was calling my friends, those people who were my friends at that studio space at that time, those were people that truly needed a push in the back that they weren't getting. And I'm going to be real, dude. It took someone coming up to me and saying, yo, quit being a joke, quit fooling around, take care of your shit and get your shit done the right way, and take this shit more serious. You know, it took that. And hold on a second, I'm walking back inside.
Yeah.
It took that, but you know, a lot of people don't get that. And I recognize that the shop that I was going in to teach, the kids that were taking that class from me, they had not gotten that. And
oh no, dude, it was like a lot of sitting around taking dabs and kind of bullshitting.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's just a lot of like, I would show up, dude. I know I know it sounds silly because everyone's a hard worker at the end of the day. If you blow glass, you're a hard worker. But I'd show up for. Can we pause it real quick so I can go to the bathroom?
You know what? I was about to say the same thing to you. I got to take a piss real quick. I need to get my charger for my thing. Yeah, I'll be right back. We're back and from a quick break, peeing. And yeah, man. So we're talking about the, you going back to Zen and kind of reintroducing yourself as now in a sense of from going from being a teacher or student, I should say, now to being a teacher.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm on the torch right now. I'm gonna put this in the kiln real quick so I can chat. I actually I had worked at Zen off and on for 3 or 4 years. Different groups of people in and out of there.
Sorry.
And at that time, I really recognized coming back there. 2000. This is now 2017 is where we're at.
Yep.
It's like, gosh, I guess this is August of 2017, and I came back to Zen to do that class. I really, being friends with the groups of guys there and all the different workers in the back over the years, there was a couple consistent workers who had stayed there, and I noticed that I even told Josh this. I was like, I feel like I could come back and share some information that maybe I've picked up along the way that can help a group of peers that I really consider to be a good group of guys that just need a little direction. Maybe I can give them some direction, give them some information that they're not getting from other classes. As a student, as a continuing student, and still taking tons of classes, I felt as though I had a more comfortable voice for them to hear and accept from, and so yeah, it was really good. The guys in that class picked up a lot of information, and I eventually, I feel like that, if anything, that's what I teach people the most is take classes. People are asking me, they're like, what can I do to be a better glassblower? I get people that hit me up on Instagram that will ask me how can I, what can I do to do this better? How can I be a better glassblower? Take classes. Like it's not a hard question. It's not even a hard answer.
It's super important. Yeah, continuing education is awesome. I mean, as part of the show is I try to help out with that process in a sense by bringing artists on like yourself and sharing these stories and processes and blah, blah, blah. But we don't get into technique talk much. But again, educational space is huge outside of, you have to. I mean, not YouTube videos.
Let's be real. Outside of YouTube and outside of your own studio, if you're not picking up any information, you're only as good as the dude on YouTube and the dudes in your studio. And at the end of the day, if you got one guy in the shop going to classes, that's awesome. Hang out with that guy. I'm sure he'll be willing to share some information with you. But you're gonna look like an asshole for not taking classes, dude. Take a class. Show up to a class. Go to these. Put yourself out there. Not to be friends with people. Not to come back and know all these different glass blowers and say that you're homies with so-and-so. Dude, I can't even remember half the people I've taken classes with in the past 3 months of taking classes. I know the teacher's name, and I know a handful of people that I knew prior to that class. Anybody that I've met in a class in the past year, chances are I probably can't remember you. And it's unfortunate, I hate to say it, but we didn't probably even meet. I probably didn't even introduce myself to you. And it's not because I'm antisocial, but it's because I'm there to learn. And if you're there to learn, you and I are already on the same page. There's no discussion. There's no discussion of why I haven't introduced myself to you. You know why.
Yeah, man. That's how I felt at the fucking classes at Tea Leaf that I took. I maybe shook 3 other hands.
Yeah, right?
And then I went on stage and did a demo for everybody.
Yeah, right? That's what I'm saying, dude.
Was fucking,
how cool is that?
Yeah, I mean, still to this day, I tell Coyle, it was it was like going on stage and getting to use fucking Mick Jagger's microphone,
Yeah, there you go. That's
his
cool.
kabuki,
Yeah.
But he asked me to do a demo. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, right. Coyle's so cool, man. He's one of my favorite artists. Everything, in general. I have a lot of favorite artists. He's one of my favorite glass artists, and I'll say straight up, it's because of his positivity and his attitude. He brings nothing but good vibes whenever I see him at events. God, I wish I could hold up to the standards of good vibes that he brings. Because half the time I'm like, damn, I can't keep up with this. The energy he's creating too much positive energy. I can't keep up with it.
Yeah, he's good stuff. And I like guys like him, I really appreciate. Like you're talking about the Goosefire videos that came out. Like his show that he did.
Talking about that's what I'm talking about. I can't keep up.
Like that show, dude. Like he's all about. Like I said from the beginning, he is in my interview that I did with him, which is probably the worst interview I've had in the show. No offense to him at all, but just the way that things went. But what I took from that interview was that he is all about it just because it's fucking fun. He loves what he does because it's fun.
Yeah.
And that's his personality. You see these videos of these shows he's having.
Well, I see it at his classes when I've taken, I took two, like he doesn't remember. He probably doesn't remember who I am. He probably, if he saw me in public, he'd probably kind of recognize who I am. Maybe if I had, shaved my face and cut my hair. But at the end of the day, I know who he is because of the impression he made on me. And man, his work speaks on that same level and that same quality.
Mm-hmm.
Which is super cool.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But anyways, though, so with going on with
blowing
this
smoke
class,
up Quill's ass.
Yeah, no, he's honestly who I feel like inspired me to teach that class, because the way he came in on that size of class was so open. He was like, dude, what do you guys want to learn? Like, what have you not been picking up? And we had just taken a class right before that was not so good of a class. Like a lot of us in that class had spoke about it. And we spoke specifically about how the artists teaching were not open to wanting to show anybody anything that we actually wanted to see. And,
you said they kind of just came in and did a collab and expected you guys.
They just kind of, they came and did the collab. They came and did the collab, brought their own materials. It wasn't, you know what I mean? Like stuff was already there. It was already going. It wasn't like we even got to see half the prep get made. And that being said, when Coyle came in, man, he came in and was like, yo, what you all want to know? I'm going to show you what's up. And that's how I want to teach a class. That's how I want to teach a workshop. I want to show up and I want to be like, yo, what can I show you? I'm well-rounded enough. I'm pumped on this medium enough. I'm a good enough person that I'm like, I know that I'm still learning. I know that you're still learning. I know that you know things I don't know, and I know things that you don't know. And if I can share them with you, and you want to share stuff with me, that's cool. But if I can share them with you, and it betters you, man, that's awesome. Because, dude, I'm doing my thing, and I'm super pumped on it, and I just want to see you be happy too, And
exactly.
That's the type of workshop I want to offer if I was to ever offer a workshop. So that's how I felt going into that situation. I recalled past classes that I did not like. Classes that really bothered the hell out of me. Man, one time we were in a class. The teacher is like, dude, it's just, I can't even go into it. Long story short, there has been some very bad classes that I have spent a lot of money on, and there has been some very good classes that I have spent no money on. So at the end of the day, if you just keep taking them, chances are you're going to get a good one, and you may pay a lot for some shitty ones, but eventually you get a good one. And it's all about the attitude of the person. Once again, it's like dude, I'm going through life every day scanning. Like, are you raw? Are you refined? Are you raw? Like, are you refined? Do you have good intentions? Is your heart in the right place? Are you a positive influence in my life? Are you a positive influence in your own life? And I'm like pulling the information that I can take off the surface, so that when they do speak, when they do give effort into a relationship with me, I already not so that I can pass judgment, but so that I can have a little bit of a should I be here? That's the feeling. Should I be here right now? Should I be listening to this person? Is this worth my time? Like,
oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
I openly go into situations like that. I feel like, man, if you're gonna take a class from anybody, and you from the very get-go, they're more pumped on what they're doing, that's probably not a good sign. When dude's pumped on what you got going on and how he can help you, and that energy, man, that's the raw energy I want to see, because it's just like pouring out of you. You know what I mean? Like, dude, you are so pumped on what you got going on, and I'm pumped on what you got going on. You know what I mean? But
yeah, it's so cool.
The dude that's pumped on what he's got going on, that he's just in a different light. Not that that's a bad light, but what I'm saying is picking up on energy, especially when it comes to teaching classes, offering workshops, being a person that is willing to give information and accept it. Man, you got to make sure those are the right people, because classes, they come and go, but there's a few specific workshops that I can remember, and I date it back to a teacher that I actually had in high school who, I mean, my education basically goes up to senior year of high school and graduating, getting my diploma. And then beyond that, I really have not spent much time in an educational program other than glass and or work-related educational programs that may have consisted at like a work site or training for a work-related thing. When I was in high school, I had a teacher who taught commercial arts and digital design, and his name's Chris Jewell. And man, he did so much for me. And the idea of, and I didn't know it at the time. Once again, you don't know it until someday it just hits you, and you're like, oh, there it is. That's exactly what's been going on this whole time. It's the pure good-heartedness that's in some people, that it can be seen immediately, dude. Like, no one's got to even talk to say shit. You know what I mean? I feel like a good majority of the artists in our industry are like that. And a good majority of the classes I've taken are like that. And that's really what I like. Continuing on the same topic, we'll move forward, but that's what I want to portray in a workshop or a class. I want to, like, if I come to the studio pissed off, I'm generally angry, and it just is what it is. It's my own business. But if I'm coming to offer you information, I better show up in the best attitude possible. And I hope from anybody else that I receive information from.
Yep. 100%.
But so anyways, though, so I showed up to that Zen class, that type of attitude, and man, this is August. This is late summer, and I recognized immediately that day one, day two class of people not knowing who I was and what was going on, that was tripping people up. I figured the gallery show would be a little interesting. Gallery show comes around, we're all hanging out. Things are moving and shaking. And honestly, all I'm selling is Lerker work. People don't know who the guy is. People haven't seen the guy. People don't know if it's me. I have people on the sales force selling the glass for me. So I'm not even like, I'm just like shaking hands. And hell, I'm wearing like a beanie and like blue jeans and shit. Like I look like I was trying my hardest to just blend in with the general public. This was not about me. This was about the work. And I feel like that the fact that I did not sell any of my own work, JB branded work there, JB recognized body of work, Millie work, any of that. I didn't sell any of that there. And I sold a lot of Lerker. And it was very obvious to me that people were buying into where my heart was at and not where my psychedelic drive to figure out the cosmos and the existence of the world was at. That was my own personal effort. And
that was your journey.
Yeah, and that's art. That's what you need. Yeah, you need a personal journey while also complementing what the general public and what your collectors market and the gallery representatives, what they're looking at, what they're into. Like, you're not making it because it's what they want. You're making it because what you want. But it's
I think what you're doing too is like you're making a connection with people because it's a whimsical, cartoony, fun thing.
Yes, it's
so it's like you're on this mad fucking journey, but you're creating something that speaks to them.
Yes, that's another Coyle thing. I learned that from Coyle. I feel like too is like watching his work and listening to him talk, reading into his work. He's really trying to connect people with their childhood, and I don't think I'm necessarily trying to connect people with their childhood, but I'm trying to connect people with a side of them that they know exists, but they aren't necessarily always open to discussing or talking about. And people look at them sometimes and they're like, oh, that's an angry one, or that's a sad one, that's a goofy one. But it's just like it's just this little Lerker. And people are like, oh, that's a human, or that's an alien. And it's once again, just a little Lerker. It is what it is. I don't know if it's I don't know what it is. Has a belly button. I tell people that all the time. Has a belly button.
It's fun, man. It's like a snork. Like, what the fuck is a snork? I don't know. Goddamn sea monkey thing, but it's a
So and that being said, I kind of taught that in the class. I feel like when I taught that class, that's really what I was trying to push, was that at the end of the day, you can come to the table, you can fight to survive, and create exactly what you want to create for yourself every single day. On top of it, you could also come in 6 hours earlier and create something for yourself that people are really into, that allows the next like 10 to 15 hours worth of work to just be you. And if people like it, they do. If people don't, they don't. Who cares? But you got some cool ass shit in your own personal collection that you made that you're like, damn, I put my heart and soul into this. And that's the Millie work. That first day of that class, I did not teach Millie work. That entire class, I did not teach Millie work at all. When I when I offered to teach that workshop, I openly told Josh to tell people that Millie was not going to be in the class, because people were asking what the criteria of the class was going to be, what the curriculum was going to be, and people were asking about the Millie work, and I was not into showing the Millie work. It was not something that I felt as though I had the authority to go and just teach a workshop on, as if I was some great Millie artist that had been developing something for all these years. No, I'm just some other fucking random dude who's like making kaleidoscope pattern after a long night the next day, hanging out in his studio, like melting glass together, making kaleidoscope pattern and like putting it into tubing. Like that's all I was doing. And it was doing it for me, and people that loved it. And I absolutely loved it. And I still love it. And it's like, it's something I dabble in myself all the time. Like I have little chip build outs right now that I just haven't even stacked in the tube. And that being said though, I wanted to teach that. I wanted to let people know that's how, you know, if I was going to teach a workshop on Millie, then I needed to be some great Millie artist. It wasn't my job to come in and teach that. So day one, I taught basic pipe skills. I taught a few basic models of, this is interesting. I believe that class, actually thinking on it now, this was a 3-day class. So this was day 1, 2, and then a third day of like final building, I'm pretty sure. So it was like 4 days altogether. Huh. So it was like, I did day 1 was all JB. Day 2 was all Lerker, and then day 3 was like final building of both. And day 1, I built a few basic pipes, 2-piece Sherlock, recycler. Day 2, I built a full body Lerker, and I believe I built a head, possibly like a head rig or maybe a couple pendants. And then day 3, I came back in and built a mini tube, and also completed the Lerker, the recycler, and a couple other random things. I just showed tricks to people that people were asking for. That's what I love. I love that about workshops. Come in and ask a random thing. Show me a fume thing. You know what I mean? And people were asking me that shit because they know that's what I ask every time. And I had that's some awesome. Little to pop off, you know? And so it was fun. That was like a good aspect of it. But anyways, though, we get through the workshop, get to the gallery show, selling the Lerker stuff, not really in the JB stuff. I come back. I keep basically all the JB work for myself now. So I randomly will get on my JB page and I'll post up like a new piece here and there that I'm kind of working on. Like I posted up like a push bubbler or 2 that I made a couple months ago. And I'll post up some Millie here and there, but I'm really focusing on the Lerker now ever since that show. And it's because I recognize once again that putting my heart into a character, into a model that people could relate to just as I relate to, in some way that I have no idea why I relate to it. I'm literally building something that is not replicatable outside of me. Like people can make it, other people can create it, but it's only complementing me. It's complementing who I am as an artist and what I'm doing. Because at the end of the day, I'm creating the Lerker. The Lerker page is ran by me. Like the body of work that is sold and the final product as glass is me. Like people will make custom mats and stuff for their friends, which I love seeing that stuff. Like, you know, the Grateful Dead has always been open to that. Like, don't stop people from taping your shit and putting it out into the world, and don't stop people from making like cool ass shirts on lot and selling them. Just let it happen, and if anything, it's going to promote you more. So it's like I enjoy seeing where the Lerker is going for me right now. The Instagram is now Lerk_the_world, Lerk the world, which I feel like I changed that name up. Gosh, 2017 early on. maybe like before summertime, I changed it to that. And it was because that's what I felt like I was doing. I moved out here to Colorado, and I really didn't know what was going on. I was literally lurking the world. And
yeah, it was a fun little gimmick too, what you're doing with some of the pictures and paintings and stuff.
yeah. Like I kind of like played into this whole idea of like almost like exit through the gift shop style character of he's creating this character, but at the same time he's creating it as a painting, or is he creating it as a glass? Like who is he? Is he filming the whole thing? Like is he doing this? Is it JB? You know what I mean? Like is JB working together? Because then I would do like a collab with myself.
I know that's what was funny. That's what kept me going.
There was a time period there too. You know, my photography background came into play. I was shooting all my own glass, and going into that show, I needed an entire portfolio of photographs for my work. So I just went ahead and used my my photography background to shoot a light set of photos complementing the work that was on display. Nothing that I felt was outrageously awesome. I wasn't like blown away by these photos that I had taken, but I recognized that in a sense they complemented somewhat of an industry standard on the way work should be presented in its final form when being photographed. And I recognized that I had that skill to do that. So I now I got the Lerker page going. I got the Lurk the World page going. I got the JB Glass page going, and I'm banging out work for both pages and really focusing on the Lurker stuff. And now all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit, I got my photography thing going. Well, instead of just like putting my work out there and like not branding it, let me go ahead and like just see what happens if I start a photography Instagram and start taking the photos and putting it on there, and then tagging this photography Instagram and saying so-and-so took photos of my work, and see how that goes, you know? So I made a page called The Digital Lab, and it's just me running my own shit as usual, photographing my own work, finished product out the door, and advancing it along so that other people have an idea that, hey, someone is actually putting in work here to do this. Because at the end of the day, people see that final work, and it's sad to say it, but social media has created an image, I feel like, for artists, that if you don't tell people that you've done everything, including like scrub the floor after you worked, then you're not getting your buck on your piece. And it sucks to say it, but at the end of the day, complimenting high-end work with high-end photos and representing it under a represented name is helping you move that much farther along in the sense of properly representing yourself. That's what that is.
Yeah, it's creating a high-end niche brand kind of thing too, like a, you know, like whatever.
Like let's
Kate
say
Spade or something.
Yeah. Kate Spade. Someone shoots a photo of her stuff. Well, that person works for her. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yep. Or you know, Louis Vuitton. Someone shoots or even McDonald's. Someone shoots a photo of a cheeseburger for McDonald's. They're not outsourcing the photos. They're working tightly within the organization of their company to shoot that damn cheeseburger perfectly. You know what I mean?
And they have it's an umbrella, so they may have a photography company on the side that people don't know McDonald's owns.
Exactly. So it's really interesting. Like, you know, I was at a point where I felt like, number one, I'm trying to survive off of a high-end production line of this character while making all this fun art of Millie stuff. I don't have extra money to go pay a photographer to shoot my work. I actually went to like literally 2 months of a semester of a college program, which I ended up afterwards shooting like nightclub photography. So I had like a slight feel for what I was doing. And man, just kind of played into it, dude. I played right into it, and
it's awesome.
I'm just allowing it to kind of flourish the way it is, and you know, I understand I could reach out to other people and I could pay for people to take my photos, and
but why?
Eventually I will. I probably will.
Well, yeah.
Honestly.
I heard. Well, here's a quote for you. I heard the other day. Once a task that you do over and over again becomes a pain, you just hate to fucking do it, is when you hire somebody to do it. So if you hate taking pictures of your shit, then you can hire somebody.
I'll get to a point where I'm sure I will want to reach out to other photographers. I see the names online, and I see the work, and I recognize that there's obviously it's the same way that my work looks different from anybody else's work. Their style of everything is slightly different. They're a different person altogether. And I'm sure at a time in my life, when and if I'm ready to afford and not only afford, but be able to have the work that I want shot by those guys, I'm sure I'll be ready to have them shoot my work. But until then, I really am enjoying figuring out that whole side of things, shooting my own work.
Yeah, I think it's another form of artistic expression for you too. Which like there's a term I've heard in the past. This guy John Lee Dumas, I don't know if he coined it or it's just something he says, but it's like the whole zone of genius idea. So now you have like your photography that you've learned, you have your glass, and your perspective as a photographer and as a glass blower, and how you want your shit to be, and so you can kind of make it all happen in a picture.
Mickelson said that. I'd taken a class with Mickelson, and he said the same thing. He said that at the end of the day, the piece is not finished until it's photographed. And I've been to his space in Florida, and he obviously has a space to photograph his work that is in his finishing area, and that's as it should be. That's how it should be set up. So it's nice. We have a little spot here in the shop that we shoot photos in, and I have a little setup at my house that I'll shoot photos in sometimes. But anyways, so yeah, I enjoy that aspect of it. So I went ahead and made a page to it. I expected at some point either my shop mates or friends would be down to let me shoot some of their work, which that opened up to that too. And it's been fun to just enjoy shooting photography and not have it be a job, which I originally thought that semester of college that I was going to come back and do more photography classes, and I would end up being a photographer. And I'm very happy that I literally took a semester of college, moved to Kentucky. I lived in Lexington, Kentucky for 3 or 4 months, and moved back home and got a job at Chipotle. And then he gave me that phone call. So it's been like that ever since. But anyways, though, trying to think where we're at on everything. Where I'm at now, mostly,
So now you're settled in, and
I'm settled in here in Colorado.
Going.
Yeah, I live here in Fort Collins right now. I'm looking to purchase a house here in the next few months, hopefully. Kind of get even more settled, and I really enjoy it out here. The weather is really nice. There's so much to do. It's a completely different territory than I grew up in. I grew up on the beach, and I live in pretty much the flattest part of Colorado right now. So I don't really live in like a hilly area. Like I live on the edge of a mountain range, so I get to see mountains.
You're in Fort Collins. Yeah, it is flat.
But the city itself is fairly flat. So
a lot of prairie dogs.
A lot of prairie dogs. I hear they carry rabies and shit, so I try not to fuck with them. But I wanted to sort of touch them and shit, of course, when I first saw them. Yeah, and like you'll ride the bike trails and stuff. I do a lot of mountain biking out here. Luckily, I just got into it. And I had no idea what I was doing, of course. I mean, I knew what I was doing a little bit, but there's a local glassblower, Surf Rat, and his name's Brian. But he's been around blowing glass 15 years. And I think he started in 99, so I guess that's 18 years now. But he came up in the BC, Washington, Oregon, the Pacific Northwest area, and blowing glass and mountain biking. So he has a big history in it. He lives out here in Fort Collins, and he was super open to taking me out and showing me around, which was super cool. And that's what I do in my spare time is I try to get out on the trails and hike or ride my bike. I live right off a Horsetooth Reservoir, which it's a big body of water. It's snow fed, and it's actually a lower reservoir in a large group of reservoirs. So it gets fed down from another reservoir as well. And the water actually is what feeds most of the city, if not the county. And there's like different tiers off of that. So like, areas that are farther out from Fort Collins, they're in a different tier from the same water supply. And it's just an interesting setup out here. It's like it's completely unlike Florida, that's for sure.
Yeah, I've been out there, man. It's fucking amazing.
When I'm out here, I feel like I'm in a different world. Like even driving around, like you almost feel like you're like driving on the on the planet itself, and you can almost just seeing far relates it for you, but like the feeling of where you're at, you feel like you're like driving on top of everything. Let alone you're like 5,000 feet up. You know what I mean already. So the mountains are cool.
Wild.
I go up in the mountains a little bit, but anyways though, yeah, we're settled in right now. The space we're in, great space. They have the color company in here. It's called Colorado Color Company, and they're doing that tubing where they're just right now they're doing these large diameter poles, which then result in a pretty good sized chunk of color tubing that's very much workable. And beyond that, I spend a lot of time at the shop. I have a setup right now. I have a Delta Mag that I work on. I do most of my like sculpting and production work on there. I do a lot of production work still. I do a whole line of nothing but like hand pipes and some just different pipe
Stuff
related
that sells.
Yeah, 420 items that I can sell to people who also support my high end art. That's really at the end of the day what I'm looking for. I feel like a lot of people are trying to be one or the other, and I understand that you are going above and beyond to support me in my art, and that the fact alone that I have the time to create it is like half the battle. The other half is the fact that you have the time to now buy it from me and sit on it and hopefully find someone to buy it from you, you know? And the fact that you also support me and my family and what I'm doing by buying the production work. I feel like that really is what kind of pushes me along to continue, because there's days where I come in here and I crash and burn on big pieces. And but I know at the end of the day I can put a few $100 in the kiln, you know?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's smart, man.
But anyways, that being said, I work on a Delta Mag and a Herbie right now as my two main bench torches. The Herbert Arnold 40 millimeter is the torch that I really like the most. I compare the two. I've worked on a lot of torches. I own a lot of torches. I own quite a lot of torches. I just buy into stuff. I'm a hoarder. I own a liquid cooled PM2D that's like pretty fresh. It's got just a few hours on it. That's got like a really nice fresh face on it. They like discontinued those probably like 4 or 5 years ago, but that was like a staple torch since the Great Depression. And it's a water cooled. It basically is like a Carlisle CC, water cooled. The center port on it is like a multi port on a Herbie, where it's got like 4 or 5 ports coming out of the face of it, and then the outer fire of it though reminds me a lot of like a Carlisle. In those torches,
that's the Bethlehem, right?
The Bethlehem PM2D. A lot of those torches remind me. The PM2D became like I think it became the champion.
Yeah, we consider like Daniel. Oh, okay. Daniel, who got me the pipe techniques, kind of started up in Georgia for a little bit. He went from a freaking minor bench burner to that. And
to the PM2D.
The first day we used that thing, it was like he got the water cooling system hooked up, and then he ran it for like 3 hours.
It's like a fish pump.
Yeah, exactly. But dude, he got so freaking like sunburnt from it. It was it was hilarious in like 3 hours. He was fried.
They're hot. Yeah,
Holy
they're like
shit.
they're like the OG like side torch. Like a lot of guys had them on the lathes and shit. Man, it's such an interesting bench torch to just do good clear work on, and man, they rock for fume. That center fire on that Bethlehem is great for. The center fire is okay. Let's be real. The center fire is not a I believe it's a surface mix, but what I'll tell you is the outer fire is nice and fluffy and soft. And I say this a lot. The PM2D reminds me of the Carlisle, but it reminds me of a GTT with no triple mix on like a Mirage.
Okay.
So it's like real fluffy. Not like fluffy like the Herbie, but like damn, where's my triple mix at? And that's why I really don't use that torch. But it just sits. It's a collectible. I have a shitload of collectibles. I collect a lot of glass related stuff. I buy a lot of glass from other glass artists. You should always support other glass artists. I buy a lot of Millie and pendants, lots of pendants. Usually try to get functionals if I can by like trading my work for it. to shop owners. Like if there's something I really like and a shop owner is willing to work with me on it, I'll get something like that. But
yeah, man, that's how I got my Steve Sislove pendant. Or no, it was actually not Sislove. When that wasn't Sislove, it was
Muller,
Peter Muller. Yeah,
Muller voodoo doll. Yeah, I remember that. I got one too. Every class I can take, I try to trade for something at that class or buy something from that class. But anyways, though, so yeah, the comparison on the two, I want to talk about this. I heard this in an interview last week with someone who mentioned that, and I'll just say this, it wasn't with you, but it was in regards to the Herbie. Someone referred to the Herbie as just being like the Carlisle. The Herbie is a completely different torch from any other torch on the market. The things that you can do on that torch when it's properly tuned, it's like I compare it like this, and I know this sounds nuts, but I said this 2 weeks ago, and I'm glad that I'm on the air right now saying this shit. I'm gonna put this down. I said 2 weeks ago, if I ever get on a live chat or a podcast or something, and someone asks me or I get a chance to talk about the Herbie, I'm gonna compare it to like being in a video game and like getting to choose like if you want to be like the guy that's like, if you want to be like Wolverine, or if you want to be like the Wizard, or if you want to be like the guy with like the machine gun and like the full like bullets around his chest, or like, if you want to be like the mage, like the girl with the stick and shit or something, you know what I mean? Like you're choosing, like it's like a Tekken or like a game, like a fighting game. Like you're choosing your characteristic of your fighter. The Herbie is like choosing the Wizard. That's how I can compare it. But anyways, that being said,
I get it though. It's a crazy torch.
When you get on there, you feel like you got like this crystal ball in front of you, and you're like rotating your hand around the crystal ball, and at the same time you're like casting a spell out towards someone, or like that is what's going on that torch. I every time I hop on the Herbie, I am making art. Every time I hop on that GTT, I'm making art, but I'm grinding my ass off making whatever I'm making. Like I'm making like some like heavy duty shit. I have done every single thing on that Herbert Arnold that I have done on that GTT, including pull milli, massive milli. I see people talk about this too all the time, where they'll say, I just saw the other day, there was a meme that was posted about, in regards to Mickelson buying a Herbie and trading his Delta Mag. I have easily pulled large milli on a Herbie, and I'm not saying it took me 3 or 4 hours. I'm not saying it took me tanks of gas. I'm saying it was relatively smooth. If you understand the torch enough, you understand that the heat base that comes from that torch without compressed air alone is enough of a penetrating heat base over the time you should be working the piece, that by the time you're ready to do what you want to do to it, the center should still be cooking. Like the torch is like it cooks from the inside out. Like your shit on the inside should never be getting that cold, to the point that now when you're ready to go to do your shit, dude, milli, I don't build milli up to then at the very last move of having all of this heat cooked into this milli to then drop it into the kiln and let it come back down to kiln temp. Are you kidding me? No, I jump a milli last stripe. You jump right into pulling it because it's hot. It's got that core heat in it. You constantly have been rotating it and keeping the core heat in it. So it's like, I think understanding flame characteristic is a big deal. That's a big deal when it comes to working with color. That's a big deal when it comes to working with clear. But understanding the torch itself and more than just it heats shit up and you pull it out and then it cools down. There's a lot more going on there with that Herbie than just the fact that it's like, yeah, well, it's highly tunable and you can like pull the back off, and there's like if you pull the back off, there's actually like it's a wooden dowel, and it's wrapped in a piece of like fiber, and that fiber is running on a like as you turn the knob, there's like a little metal. It looks almost like the little like on your brakes on your car. There's like this little metal flap, and the metal flap will sometimes like tell you if your brakes are low or shit, or it's like a clip to like unclip your brakes. It kind of looks like that, but it's just a little metal clip, and it's like pushing. And as you rotate the knob, it pushes against a wooden dowel, rotates. That's off center slightly, and as it rotates, the bigger side of the wooden dowel is like pushing against this plate, which is then like making the gases flow more and more through the torch. There's like infinite possibilities with this torch. Not just, I mean, if you know what you're doing and you can tune it, good for you. But I got someone to do the job for me. I actually traded a Bethlehem lathe for this torch from a fellow glassblower who's a friend of mine back in Florida, and I've had the torch. I'm gonna be real. I had the torch for. Man, I love talking about this Herbie. Nobody talks about Herbies. People just get on them and make magic. Like, that's what I'm saying. You see people get on and they make magic and nobody talks about them. But I just
let's do this.
I just got the compressed air on the thing too. That thing's baller as fuck.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I've been hearing lots of good things about compressed air on certain torches like that.
Yeah, a lot of people are worried about the compressed air. The GTT has compressed air too. You can run it. I learned this from Camp Want to Make a Heady, which I just went to. I learned about this. It's like an airbrush compressor is what I use, and it's super affordable and it runs great. Nobody has to quote me on that. That's not like information that I came up with, but that's just a little
experience.
Bit of information that I can tell you. I recognize someone there had it, and I was like, damn, that's it.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude, it's taken like a year and a half of not running compressed air, and people being like, you need that. But
so funny. Well, here's what I think we should do, man. I'm not gonna have this in the part in the show. What I'm saying right now. I'm gonna go back through this whole episode and like pull out bullet points so we can go back and do like individual episodes on those particular topics, because it's a fresh timeline, so we're able to like nail a lot of shit down. But I want to definitely do a talk on torches because like for me, I've been running a Carlisle forever. I'm only familiar with certain torches, So it'd be fun to do like a torch talk kind of review thing about
I'm
them.
Totally about that.
And then like color properties, flame properties, all that kind of shit too in that same kind of conversation. But also I was thinking as well as like part of my thought is with what I was saying about bringing a co-host on was to talk about like what's going on in the glass world, whether it's what you just went to, Want to Make a Heady. So save what you're going to say about it until we can record again, because I want to do like, even if you're available this coming week, we can do like an hour, like this week in glass or this month in glass or whatever kind of bullshit, and talk about that, because I think it's important, something to come, cause especially with melt coming up soon too.
Yeah, I'm down about that. If I just give you whatever I give you now, you're welcome to cut stuff out now too. I'm saying.
Well, I'm getting tired to go to bed soon, and we still have to do the final, the crash and the kiln round. It's like usually takes about 30 minutes.
Cool, we can go and do that.
So,
we go and do that.
Well, let's just kind of wrap up the conversation of your setup, and then.
I think that's kind of where we're at. I think we're more or less everything. Okay. Are you good to go?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, though, I'm running the GTT and the Herbie right now. I have the shop I just moved into. Everyone in here is running lathes as well. So I got a lathe recently. I invested some money into that, and
hell yeah,
just been trying to keep trucking along with what I got. I'm constantly reinvesting in myself. That's the best thing you can do is reinvest in yourself. Even if you like live some crazy life and you have tons of responsibilities. I have tons of responsibilities too. I know plenty of successful artists that do. You got to make that shit happen.
Yeah, and the reinvestment part is just, if it doesn't make a return on it, then it was the wrong investment.
Yeah, exactly.
But if it's classes that you're taking, it's gonna pay off. Even if it's a bad class, you're gonna, like you're saying, you're gonna learn from the mistakes of the teacher. That's what I said earlier.
I take those classes. I'll take those classes. I've taken a ton of classes that are where I've spent a ton of money and learned nothing. I've taken a lot of classes where I've spent no money and learned a lot. So.
Yep, and the ones you learn nothing, you learn how not to give a class. That's what you learn from it.
Yeah, I was happy. Yeah. I was happy to teach that class at Zen. I'm happy to be where I'm at. I feel like the studio space we're in right now is really good, and like I said, things are just kind of moving along. I'm really focusing on the sculpted work right now. I just recently got into the drawing after getting back from the camp, and before that, really just kind of focusing on figuring out the lathe, but constantly trying to refine my work. And I'm not the best at anything, and I by any means I'm only as good at I'm only as good as I am at what I'm focusing on at the time. Like that's what I'm trying to be good at. So if I'm doing whatever I'm focusing on at the time, if I'm doing that really good, then that's awesome. Like that's what I'm pumped on.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, man, I think it's some good shit, and like definitely want to continue these conversations and pull out specific topics and things, and we kind of talking pre-show about starting to do like either a bi-weekly or a monthly episode, kind of talking about what's going on in the current events of glass and trade shows and events.
Even
and
in the
stuff.
pipe industry, I think it would be cool.
In the pipe world, yeah, in the pipe world itself, like all kind of topics we can cover. So I definitely want to come back, and it's been fun too. Having a kind of a fresh memory of the journey that you've been on for the last 6-7 years to where you are now, man. And and being my brother and stuff, and I have my perspective, and it's fun getting to hear what you have to say from your perspective, and then me getting to share my perspective with you and with everybody else too. It's pretty cool. It's unique.
I feel like, man, if the glass could only like look back on me and tell me what I've put it through,
right?
Like that would be like the ultimate thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man.
Like all this shit's been with me for years. You know what I mean? Like all these guys are like, oh, I've had this Delta Mag since '98. And it's like, well, dude, what if that Delta Mag could like look back on you and tell you where you've been since '98?
Oh, yeah, I'm like my Carlisle, man. I've been rocking that thing for 18 years almost now.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. Well, I think this is a good point for us to take a quick break and a breather. And
yeah, definitely.
Thanks for sponsors, and then we'll come back and be time for us to crash the kiln.
Cool.
Segment of the Wise Guy Radio Show is brought to you by the Flow magazine. Since its inception, the focus of the Flow has been to provide a bond among members of the lampworking community. This has been accomplished by developing relationships with the finest artists and sharing their techniques with you through in-depth step-by-step tutorials. In every issue, you can enjoy great content with the hottest artists and cutting-edge techniques using the latest industry products. These features, along with the continuation of our Women in Glass edition, Glasscraft Emerging Artist Awards, inspiring gallery showcases, dynamic general interest articles, as well as health and safety information, make the Flow the leading international lampworking journal. And if you have not yet subscribed to the Flow, you can use the coupon code WISEGUY at checkout, and you can receive 10% off your annual subscription. So just go to theflowmagazine.com. That is theflowmagazine.com. All right, dude, we're back. Quick break there. So, Crash and Killing round consists of 7 questions. You want to give me a 30 to 60 second answer on them. And the first question I always like to ask, and this should be interesting on your end because you've potentially worked with a lot of these guys that you might want to work with. But if there's a living glass artist that you haven't worked with yet, who is it and why?
Oh,
you want to?
I would say, man, just recently, not even work with, but have the chance to get to see work would be WJC. Got a chance to see him work just recently. Are you asking pipe artist? Damn it, that's so hard. I feel like that should be pipe artist maybe, because I sound like a tweaker saying a pipe artist.
It could be any glass artist.
Damn it, that's a hard question. I wish I knew about these questions coming to it. I guess that's the point of them, though.
Yeah.
Keep going.
All right, cool. Well, I haven't paused it, so I'm gonna leave this whole conversation part in there and make you sound like an asshole here.
No, delete it, please.
I'm just kidding.
I would honestly say I would say some of the guys who have passed away that I have never even heard of. I wish I could have worked with them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's an honest answer. I feel like you can put that in.
Yep. Even though the question was a living glass artist.
Oh, damn it.
So the second question is, what are your top 5 favorite colors in glass?
Top 5 favorite colors. I would say I really like the hot sauce. I like the iris from Glass Alchemy. I like goldenrod from North Star. I like the Mediterranean. I like that new telemagenta. I like the new colors that are coming out. And the last one I would say, gosh, man, a classic one I feel like would be, God, let's go ahead and just say I think a classic one would probably be the OG Chinese white, if it was still possible to get a hold of. I like that white. That white is popping. The new Star White's a lot like it. Say that.
I got a shit ton at work.
The new Star White, I got some from you. The new Star White is extremely close to that Chinese white, and I've been putting it in drawings and recognizing that it looks a lot like it.
Yeah, it has that same kind of rough texture on the outside, like the Chinese white.
Oh, dude, it goes like that. It goes like that.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to call it, but that white, that very opaque white.
It's nice. So, what is your worst injury in the studio?
Worst injury, I would say. Man, worst injury. Definitely burned myself pretty bad. I've cut myself pretty bad. I would say I last year I was holding like a mini tube doing a ring seal, and I kind of like passed my piece with my hand torch, and I just roasted like the like if you were doing like hamburger hand with your fist and like making your thumb kind of talk like in your knuckles, you know, with like little eyeballs there. That whole spot across my skin from my thumb down to my edge of my wrist, I just roasted with the hand torch.
Jesus.
It was on Thanksgiving too. I remember it, but that was pretty bad, and that was just recent. The more I work, the worse my shit gets. The worse my burns get.
Yeah. That's when I found, like, the last time I put my hand on my flame, that was time for me not to ever work again when I'm tired.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I stuck my thumb in the links before. That's a bad one. I burnt my thumbnail right off in the links, but
That must have smelled wonderful.
oh, the nails burning smells bad. I'm glad you know about that.
It's the worst, right?
Fingernails burning is the worst, dude. Nothing smells worse than burnt fingernail.
Yeah.
If you've never experienced burnt fingernail, don't stick your finger in it, but it does smell god awful.
Yeah, if you're a glass blower, one day you'll experience.
Oh, I know other people too. Like I've and not in a blessed sense, but I've seen other people in the same shop that I worked in stick their finger in the flame. My buddy Eli stuck his thumb right in the flame too. Same kind of knuckle burn or fingernail burn. I mean.
Yeah, it hurts just thinking about it. Jesus.
You done that? Have you done that?
Oh, dude, I went across the all the tips of the knuckle and my fingernails of my left hand.
The nails.
Oh yeah, it was the last knuckle on your finger or the first one by your nail.
Oh god.
Across all three of those, I was doing it inside out.
No.
Yeah, and the fucking tube cracked and exposed my entire that hand holding the fucking leftover empty point in my hand.
No.
Flame went right across my fingertips.
No.
Yeah, and it was pretty bad, and then it was healing okay, and then Cannon was with me in the grocery store. He was like 2, 3, walking with me, and grabbed that finger and pulled the Band-Aid off with the skin and everything behind it.
No.
So it took forever to heal.
Oh god.
And he felt terrible about it too, and I was like, trying to make him feel better about it, but I was like, oh my god, we had to leave because I was afraid of like bacterial and germs exposure to it,
Of course.
It's so nasty. But anyways, long story short, so when you're in the studio, you watch TV, listen to the radio, or do you do both?
I listen to a lot of the same exact Grateful Dead show over and over again, depending on how I feel that day.
Nice.
And I listen to a lot of Desert Dwellers, Schwangel, and God, that's about it. Honestly. Yeah, I like Schwangel a lot. Did you listen to Schwangel at all, like back in the early 2000s?
No, I've heard of him. I've heard their music before. It's fun.
He's like late 90s, early 2000s type shit. But it's coming back around now. It's like popular. It's like more mainstream now than anything. But yeah. Anyways, though, I listen literally. Right now I'm like stuck on specifically this Nassau Coliseum Grateful Dead set. That's like 2 nights. I keep watching it on YouTube over and over again. Brent opens up with his great jack. Dude, it's just a great one. Anyways.
Yep. Let's see. You have any glass blowing themed tattoos?
Not yet. I guess I do. I have at some point I have a tattoo. I have a tattoo I've been working on since I was 18. I randomly will get my buddy who has worked on it roughly since then to like do some more work on it. And just recently I added some like broken glass shards, almost like crystals, but they kind of are glass. That's kind of what I was shooting for. But nice. I've implemented that into the piece.
Hell yeah, fun. So the last question is your top 5 favorite tools, and that does not include your torch or your glasses or your kiln.
Okay, top 5 favorite tools. I would say the lathe, number 1.
Cool.
That's probably my favorite tool. I do everything on that. And then I would say my knife, which is the exact same knife that I learned from. This is the knife that I don't know if he still uses it, but I took this Voorhees class back in like 2013, 2014, and he had the knife. It's been my favorite knife ever since. And you said top 5?
Yeah, top 5.
Okay. Last three, I would say my jaws. I have like a mini and a large set of jaws to like break down tubing, and the big ones I can go all the way up to like 75 on, and
Wow.
yeah, the little ones I can do like 9.5 on, and they're just like hand jaws. They're real nice. I have a big ass bundle of white sage that I've had on my bench. It's not the same bundle, but I've been rocking that shit for like 4 or 5 years, and that's definitely like one of my favorite tools.
Hell yeah.
And I would say, man, the cutting tool that I have in front of me, along with those, this is like one. This is like sometimes one tool, I guess, but the cutting tool that I have in front of me matched up with the straight rollers. The like the scientific straight rollers. These are like old school as hell. Not a lot of people use these, but I'll drop stuff into these straight rollers, and Kiva Ford is who actually I saw use them originally, and I'll straighten handles out on them and prep them to go into the lathe. So like stuff from the bench can be like perfectly on axis on the lathe.
Yeah, sounds like a good
And
idea.
you can do that shit on the lathe. Don't get me wrong, but the tool in front of me is like I can prep it, put it on my bench, and come back to it like days from now, and I know it's straight. And then I have with that I have a little Fire Kiss cutting tool that's like right adjacent to it, and man, I break down tubing and encalmo right to that. And I saw you, Sheen and Calm, using that first. That's who I picked that up from.
Huh, interesting.
In one of their classes. That was like a man. Those classes you see shit, you're like, oh dude, that tool is different from last time. What is that? You know?
Yeah, these are all the kind of
Fire
things I want
Kiss.
to talk about, dude. Like, I think it'd be fun to do these shows.
Yeah, Fire Kiss
kind of-
makes that. That tool's baller.
Yeah, we can start doing tour reviews, all kind of shit.
That's a great one. But yeah, that's my top 5. And the Sage
Cool.
is the biggest one. Ja Feel.
Yeah, I'm on. Everything be Irie. Yeah, I keep Sage in the shop, too, on my bench.
One time I left it on the kiln, and I'm working through a piece like hours deep in this piece, and my shopmates come up and he's like, dude, your fucking kiln's on fire. And I'm like, what? And he's like, well, it was on fire. And he's like, we just watched that whole bundle of sage literally cook through like the past like 2 hours you've been working.
That's amazing.
It just like
At least
roasted
it wasn't
on
a
my
candle.
kiln.
That's
Oh
so
man,
funny.
I have crystals all over my kiln too, and they're like on magnets and shit. I'll come over and dude, I buy these cheap ass like they're like melted on there with hot glue. I come over, I look on the ground, all my crystals are on the ground like broken and shit, and it's because the hot glue's melted right off the wall of the kiln.
That's hilarious. Hell yeah, man. Well, this has been fun breaking this
Yeah, it's
thing
been
up
great.
in a 2-part series. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the first part up until when I talk about my perspective of your show. And then
Cool.
the second part, we'll start off from that point on, which is your perspective, where you were to build up to that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
However you want
I
to break
think-
it down. I
I think it'll be fun.
are you on? Are we still live or?
Yeah, we're recording right now. But
Yeah, I'm down. I'm down to break it down however you want. I just ultimately I just want it to be if I say some stupid ass shit, just cut it out like this shit right now.
So far, so good. It's
Thank
all
you.
been stupid ass shit.
I know there's some good shit in between that though. There's some good shit in
There's a
between
ton of good shit in there.
that. But yeah, if you can just I honestly do because there's some parts where I probably just sound like an idiot rambling along.
Hey, it's
Man,
okay.
that anyways though, glass is such an interesting place right now. I'm happy to be a part of it. How are we doing with questions? Didn't you have like do you gotta ask me anything else or something, or
No, that's it. We're done. So
Cool.
so now you just got to if you want to give us some parting advice before we let you go, and then where we can find you in cyberspace, and I'll have all your links to all your Instagrams and everything else in the show notes for folks to check out.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Lerk the World. It's LERK _the _world. In my other Instagram is JB_glass. I'm barely on there. I'll probably never add you, but yeah, it's private. I'll probably never add you. But anyways, words of advice: work your ass off. Never take no for an answer, and keep taking classes. And man, if you have an opportunity to work hard for something, or take the easy way out, maybe you should sometimes work hard for it because it'll benefit you in the long run.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, this whole thing is like I preach it. It's the whole marathon, not a sprint thing.
Yeah, man, it's a long road, and I thought a long time ago that I was going to do something a lot different than where I'm at now, and I thought it was just going to happen because of taking classes and showing up to those things. But for some people it does, and for some people you really just got to put in the hard work. And I listen to a lot of the guys who are putting out all the big pieces, and I listen to their interviews and I listen to what they have to say, and they keep saying the same thing: just work your ass off and keep working as hard as you can. Yep. So that's what you got to do.
Yeah, man, it's not the 10,000 hour rule. You know, they say 10,000 hours to perfect something. I think it's 10,000 hours of technique with glass, which is a long time.
Per tech, dude. Per tech, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Well, cool, man. I hope you all enjoyed this. This is probably the longest so far interview we've had in the show, and I was expecting it, which I'm fucking pumped. So yeah, man, tons of great shit. Thanks for like opening up and sharing the journey, man. It's been fun, and it's an honor to be a part of your whole situation. And as your brother, I'm fucking super proud of you, bro. It's like I can't say good enough things about you.
I appreciate everything you've ever done. I appreciate early on, and I appreciate just you still being here and just doing your own thing. It's cool to see where you're going with it, and the fact that you've been at Disney for so long and the podcast is doing what it's doing. It's cool to see where you're going. So I'm stoked to be a part of it, and I appreciate you bringing me on.
Yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Especially now, 199 episodes. That's awesome.
Yeah, fucking A. 199 A and a B.
There you go.
Or 1 and 2 or whatever we're gonna call it. So y'all take care of yourselves out there. I hope you enjoyed this long talk and lots of good content and information. Take classes, further educate yourself. Invest in yourself. It's not a problem going to college if you want to do that, but if you're in glass for life, in a sense, then you got to develop skills and pay for that shit. It doesn't come free. You're going to spend your time wasting glass trying to figure it out, or you can go spend some money on a class and just cut some corners by watching somebody else who's made tons of fucking mistakes and can show you the right way. So talk to y'all later on. Stay hydrated. Love you all so much. Thanks for tuning in to this episode, and we'll see you on episode 200. Take it easy. I'm going to say that again. Take it easy.